Good morning, everybody. The Board of County Commissioners regular meeting for October 1st, 2024. Meeting location has changed. We're here in the Rubidoux room. For those that are on the computer wondering why the room has changed, we're getting some work done on the sewer line on the block where the administration building is. That's why we're meeting in the Rubidoux room here. And if you would all rise and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. I
Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Are there any additions to the agenda?
I have none.
Okay, the agenda will stand as approved. Constituent time, is there anybody in the room that would like to address the board? And if you're on the agenda, we will come to you at that time. Anybody on the computer?
Are you talking about this list here?
You're on the agendas.
No, nobody's raising their hand online to speak.
Okay, thank you. Now we have a National 4-H Week, and we have our local 4-H group here and their leaders, and we appreciate them coming down and
Yeah, good morning. Thank you for having us. I feel bad. I'm going to move over here just so I'm not speaking. I was thinking about this yesterday. Actually, for the past 13 years, I've had the privilege of being here to introduce my officers. And I can honestly say in the 13 years, I feel like in a lot of ways, it's been more of a blessing than a job. I've got to witness exceptional kids do amazing things. And I know I sit here and I say all the time that these kids are the best, but they truly are. My 4-H kids are leaders in their schools. They're on their sports teams. They're in their youth groups, local organizations. So I really am super proud of them. This year, our Delta County 4-H program actually brought in over $1.6 million in revenue as well, too. So not only are these kids doing great things in our community, they're working hard and doing good things with their projects. So I'd just like to introduce them. They brought some goodies for you guys just to say thank you. We're so fortunate that we have your support through the county as well, too. These things wouldn't happen without you guys. So thank you for everything. So, Ms. McKinley, I'll let you stand up and introduce yourself and just tell them what office you're holding this year.
My name is McKinley, and I'm the historian.
We just had elections, so we're brand new.
My name is Cole Bush, and I am property manager.
My name is Mason Dillon, I'm the vice president.
My name is Megan Shea, and I'm the social media manager. I'm Jess Medilla, and I'm the historian.
And these ladies back here, I couldn't do without them. In Delta County, we have over 70 adult volunteer leaders that spend their time helping the program and working with these kids. So these guys are my leader advisors, and I'll have them introduce themselves as well.
I'm Stacy Bush.
I'm Jody Black. And Jolene Medill. And I'm missing a few of them and a few of my older kids just because, like we said, they're off doing great things. They're in AP physics and playing softball, but I'm very fortunate. Like I said, I've got to see these kids leave, and a lot of them go off to college and even come back to our community and continue to do great things. So we're just here to say thank you and enjoy National 4-H Week. So.
I'll start here. Jackie, thank you so much. This is my 8th year of doing this and having the 4-H kids come. And it's one of my favorite meetings of the year because I get to see kids that I saw 8 years ago as adults, successful adults. And I know that the 4-H program was a big hand in that. You know, you guys learn a work ethic early on. I can tell you as a boss, as a business owner, you know, you have somebody with a work ethic, they'll be successful no matter what. And you guys have a work ethic, and that will carry on with you the rest of your lives. And I just want to thank you for all your dedication. And I want to thank your parents for all their dedication, because I know there's a lot of blood, sweat, and tears that come out on the parent end of that thing too. So kudos to you guys. Thank you for being contributing members of our society, even at a young age. It's very, very hopeful for the future when we see these young people like you guys come in and do great things. So thank you guys very much.
And I'll echo what Don said, but I had a question. Jackie, how many kids do you have in 4-H this year? Do you know?
Well, so this year, we opened enrollment in about 2 weeks.
Okay.
So, last year we had 289 kids in Delta County. So, and you know, we spread from here, Paonia, Hotchkiss, Cedar Edge. And so it's great because I get to work with kids from all areas of Delta County and kids that I can equally say that the kids I work with, I see the same throughout every school district or every school, everything. I mean, they're consistently being leaders and doing good things. So.
But I'm very proud to be part of this and I appreciate you and all your team's hard work here. And good luck to you guys. We really, you gotta know we support you. And we're here for you if you need us.
Good. Yes, nice to see young people that are in agriculture that, like Commissioner Super says, you know, has a work ethic, and that will last throughout your life. And sometimes when going gets tough, you know, the tough get going, and sometimes you have to have a full-time job and a part-time job to make ends meet. And agriculture can be an avenue for a part-time job, whether it's, you know, breaking horses, adopting a Mustang, getting it gentled down and then selling it. There's a lot of avenues that agriculture can point you to, from cutting firewood to splitting firewood, fixing fence. You all learn that in agriculture, and thank you very much. And thanks to the leaders. Thank you for your time. It's something that you can schedule your time for, but at the same time, you'd like to be doing something else rather than chasing the honk when it's out or something like that. But again, thank you for your leadership and your time. Thank you.
Yeah, and I appreciate that with my leaders too. That's one of the things I'm so fortunate. It's nice to see families spending time doing things with their kids to make a difference. So it makes my job a lot easier, and I think you'll see it in the future with our kids. So, and again, we're just lucky here in Delta County to have the support of the commissioners and the administration that we have that make our programs and our fairs and everything so great. So thank you, guys.
Thank you.
Thank you.
We won't take up any more of your time. The kiddos brought you just some thank you gifts, and we'll get a picture if that's okay.
Yeah, we need to get a picture.
You don't want to, it's whatever. Yeah, you can just. And then
Matter?
I don't think it, do you want us to stand back here with that?
Yeah, come stand over here, Lindsay,
Okay.
stand over there, we'll be good. Come on up here front. There you go. Picture, just come on in here.
This is not right.
Alright. 1, 2, 1 more. 1, 2, 3.
Okay,
Lucas, good to see you.
you too. I had to find my way here, but I'm not familiar with the concept yet. 1, 2, 3.
Perfect. Thank you, guys.
Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you for having us.
Thank you.
For everything.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys. Thanks for coming. Thank you very much. Thank you.
Thank you for your time.
Good seeing you too.
And I'm sure all the 4-H people are getting straight A's. Is that right?
Oh, we brought cookies for you guys to share.
Sure.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
Thank
I was
you.
gonna say, you should have set them by window.
Yeah.
You bet.
Oh,
Thank you.
Thank you.
How are you? Be careful.
Yeah, thank you.
Next on the agenda is County Clerk Terry Stevenson.
morning, Commissioners. I have the minutes from the September 17th, 2024 Board of County Commissioners regular meeting for your review. Are there any changes, deletions, or corrections?
I had none. No.
Thank you. I also have your consideration of a liquor license renewal for Desperado Incorporated, doing business as Desperado Liquors, located at 40486 D Road in Crawford. I have checked with the sheriff and he has had no issues. I've received all necessary documentation and therefore I would be recommending approval of this renewal.
Well, I move the board approve the liquor license for Desperado Liquor located on 40486 D Road in Crawford.
I'll second.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Next item is a liquor license renewal for SFR Operations LLC, doing business as Dinner Bell Rest at Smith Fork Ranch, located at 45362 Needle Rock Road. I've also contacted the sheriff about this one and there were no issues. I've received all documentation and fees, and there have been no issues with this, as I said before, and therefore I am recommending approval of this renewal.
I'll move the board approve the liquor license renewal for SFR Operations doing business as Dinner Bell Rest at Smith Fork Ranch, located at 45362 Needle Rock Road in Crawford.
I'll second.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, so done. Thank you.
My last item today is also a liquor license renewal for the American Legion Post number 97, Wilson Head Post, located at 40772 Lamborn Mesa Road. I've received all necessary documentation, fees, and there have been no issues with the sheriffs. Therefore, I would recommend approval of this renewal.
I'll move the board approve the liquor license renewal for the American Legion Post 97 doing business as Wilson Head Post located in Paonia, Colorado.
I'll second.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 So done. Thank you.
You.
Okay, we'll go into commissioner's business. Board's consideration of contract amendment number 4 for contract number 23 IBH 174448 between Colorado Department of Human Services, Behavioral Health Administration, and Delta County for the use and benefit of Delta County Sheriff's Department.
Morning, Commissioners.
Good morning, sir.
So we have this contract amendment, number 4 is our annual renewal for JBBS services through the Behavioral Health Administration, Colorado Department of Human Services. Our contract last year was $380,000. This year it increased to $400,000 for those services. And I would like to just give you an update on the services provided by JBBS. As you know, Jackie Felix is a coordinator for that service, and she continues to do a fantastic job and is really a leader in JBBS services and takes her position serious. And she, unfortunately, she can't make it today. She's hanging out on a beach in Hawaii today. I tried. She wanted to cancel, I think, but couldn't make it. So the JBBS program is designed to support the sheriff in providing critical services to individuals with substance use disorder and co-occurring mental health conditions. This comprehensive program focuses on delivering essential screening, assessment, treatment, coupled with robust transition, case management services to aid the successful reentry into the community. JBBS program housed within the Delta County Jail offers a range of services tailored to meet the needs of those transitioning from incarceration. These services include mental health and substance abuse treatments, The program provides medication-assisted treatment to support recovery alongside individual and group counseling and therapy. Specialized substance abuse treatment programs are also available to help individuals overcome addiction and address related issues. Case management is integral to our approach. Case management includes assisting the securing transitional and permanent housing, as well as employment support services. We help individuals find suitable housing and offer job placement services to facilitate their reintegration into the workforce. Medical and health services. Participants have access to comprehensive health care, including medical treatment, health screening, preventative care, and medication management. Ensuring that medical needs are met is a critical component of successful integration. Life skills training. We offer personal development programs that focus on goal setting, enhancing life skills. These programs are designed to empower individuals with the skills needed to navigate life successfully post-incarceration. So the contract will be sent out to myself probably mid-October. And so I just wanted to give the commissioners an update on the program, and know that the annual contract will be coming through, and I'll sign it sometime in October.
Sheriff, do you know how many individuals we've helped here in the last year with this program?
I do not have a number. I know our daily average in the jail is hovering right around 35 to 40 at this point. You know, it's program is there and the need is there. The average stay for somebody that's incarcerated now is 24 hours or less, so it's difficult getting some of those people into the program that could possibly benefit for them. But no, I'm sorry, I don't have a number that actually participate.
I guess Jackie's not available by phone.
We can call her. Any other questions?
Do you need an action from the board on this?
I think just because of the financial dollars, we can approve it. The sheriff signs it, but we can still approve it because of the financial aspect of it. So, I'll move that the board approve contract amendment number 4 for contract number 23 IBEH 1744448 in the amount of $400,000.
Second.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you, Sheriff Taylor. Thank you. Next up is board's consideration discussion of adding 7 additional FTEs for the sheriff's department to staff the first floor of the jail facility. Funds to be sourced from back the badge for the remainder of 2024.
So commissioners, as you know, we're approaching the time where the remodel of the jail is going to be completed here shortly, in several months. It's our intention to start the process, phasing process of getting employees trained and ready to go. So when the downstairs level is open, that we will have the 7 that we've identified is absolute bare minimum, that we'd be able to open the downstairs facility and be able to transition into the downstairs, including upstairs. It really is 2 separate facilities that we're going to have to try to manage. Our absolute goal is the safety and security of the facility and the inmates, as well as the officers that are working in there. So we're requesting or asking the commissioners to approve us to move forward with that proposal and identify 6 detention deputies and 1 civilian to monitor the front lobby for us. You have anything to add?
No, I think Sheriff covered it. Unless you guys have questions.
We're projected to finish the downstairs first couple weeks in January right now. So it's gonna take the sheriff and undersheriff probably at least that amount of time to try to fill those seats. Robbie and I did sit down with sheriff and undersheriff to discuss this. You know, part of it's a transition also. I mean, this is gonna be kind of a change in the way they do business over there. And given the nature of the change in our court system, I think it's gonna prove beneficial, but it's gonna take a while, I think, for them to figure out, you know, the best way moving forward staff wise. And I think, you know, time will tell what the true need is. You know, maybe less, maybe more. So we'll just have to see how it goes forward. But I think this is a good plan. So.
Will that include staffing work release?
The work release, we're not going to consider opening a work release facility until we truly see the operational needs of downstairs. So, you know, I wouldn't expect any consideration of work release through 2025, and then we'll reevaluate in 2026.
And will we look at this at the budget?
We will,
Work
yeah.
sessions then?
So for 2025, in the proposed budget, then it'll be a combination of general and back to badge funds.
We truly don't know what we don't know. You know, we feel like we 6 plus the 1 civilian will get us to a point where we can kind of start learning the operational needs of running a jail downstairs as well as running a jail upstairs. We'll still have to backfill with existing deputies. And again, we don't want to take away from the safety or security of the upstairs floors, you know, to fill holes downstairs.
Like the sheriff has mentioned, the complexity of all this has changed in the last number of years with all the PR bond and early releases with, you know, like he said, most of the folks coming in are there for less than 24 hours. So, you know, it's a lot of work every time they're in, every time they're out. So.
I don't know why the additional staff downstairs is so necessary, because we kind of see the downstairs as, you know, a holding area, and the upstairs is more housing. If somebody came in last night, they're gonna go in front of the judge, most likely get a PR bond this afternoon. There's no reason to house them upstairs, so we have to have staff to monitor them downstairs in those holding cells.
Okay, thank you. We'll take that up in the budget.
Thanks for the heads up.
I'll move that the board approve the sheriff's office, approve them to move forward with hiring the 7 additional FTEs here at the end of 2024.
And to be paid for with back to badge.
Yes.
Second.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. We're done. Thank you, gentlemen. Appreciate it. Next up is board's consideration of resolution opposing Colorado Proposition 127, prohibiting of hunting of mountain lion, bobcat, and lynx initiative for 2024.
So I asked for this to be placed on the agenda today. This is another Front Range Boulder attempt to have biology in the ballot box. We see where the wolf bill got us. We see what's going on there. We need to try to head this one off the pass. This is the hunting permits for mountain lion is a tool that CPW uses to control the population. And we need to make sure that they continue to have that tool. I'm working with county commissioners from across the state, try to get these resolutions passed across the state. And then on October 18th, we will have a large press conference with as many as possible at the Capitol steps to show the people of the Front Range that, they really don't understand biology in the West and how wildlife works. So, I'm asking that we pass this resolution and be in opposition of this Prop 127.
I would agree. Most of the major sportsmen's organizations like Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation also vigorously oppose this Proposition 127. AG&C has actually got a rally on October 10th in Grand Junction at the old Mesa County Courthouse, in addition to the October 18th at the state capitol.
Yes, for this resolution also, like you said, biology in the ballot box, and we need to rely on the professionals and the ones that have the experience about maintaining the various predator species and make sure the balance is in nature is balanced. You have your resolution book?
I don't.
Me neither.
And just for the record, even though this Proposition 127 includes lynx are a protected species and already prohibited from hunting, so they added this just for the additional heartstring cuts.
We will get a resolution book to see what number resolution this will be. And since we're in another room, neither one of us brought our resolution book, so they're on the way to come.
You want to move number 4 then? I can cover that.
Okay, we'll go ahead on number 4 while we're waiting for the resolution books for discussion regarding the 2 open seats on the Gunnison Basin Roundtable.
Commissioners, I passed this out to you. As chair of the Basin Roundtable, we've had 2 open positions come up. It's an environmental at large and Delta municipalities. These have been published in the papers several times. We have not had any candidates apply yet. It's very unusual to have 2 open seats on the Gunnison Basin Roundtable. So I wanted to put this on our agenda to get people aware that we do have these seats open. I'm going to ask Terry to go ahead and make sure that's in our record. We will be re-advertising this with closing on November 7th. Our next meeting is November 17th, actually in this room here. We will continue to advertise until we get good candidates to fill both these positions. Any questions on the qualifications for this?
It's a 5-year term.
It is. Both terms are filling unfilled terms. Although they'll end in November of 25. I've been serving on the Basin Roundtable since 2008, first as a Delta municipality rep and then as an at-large.
Thank you for your service on this. Gunnison Basin affects a lot of western Colorado, especially with the irrigation water and the conservation projects going on there, from boat ramps to other activities going on there.
We focus heavily on aging agricultural infrastructure, head gates, piping, ditch lining, trying to make the use of our water both efficient and economical.
And we've got, I mean, all you gotta do is look at the state reports and the allocations of the different basins and you know that the Front Range is licking their chops to get as much Gunnison Basin water as they can, so we need to do everything we can to protect it, so
19.
19, right? Yeah, wondering, all right. I'll move that the board adopt resolution number 2024-R-19. Resolution opposing Proposition 127, prohibition on bobcat lynx and mountain lion hunting.
Second.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Next up is board's consideration of a letter of support for the 2024 Colorado Parks and Wildlife non-motorized program application for $250,000 for the Miners Trail.
I asked Mr. Jennings to be here this morning to discuss this with us.
Sure thing. This is the CPW not motorized grant application. They have a few different categories every year, but this is for construction of Miners Trail. We've seen over the last few years, construction prices going up, materials going up. Need additional funding for the trail.
Any questions on that, commissioners?
What are restrictions?
There is a match of 25%, but we can use CDOT funding and other grants for the match.
So obviously, a guy won't be able to take his motorcycle out there on this trail when this is done, Matt.
Not on the trip.
Nice. That's already established, even beyond this.
You know, I just gotta poke at it a little bit, you know. Us guys that don't spend a lot of time on a bicycle seat, you know.
Same here. Well, I would make the motion, the board approve the support letter for the 2024 Colorado Parks and Wildlife non-motorized program application for $250,000 for Miners Trail.
I'll second.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, so done. Thank you.
Did you get that letter to sign?
I don't have this copy with me. You have one, Terry?
And Matt, while she's looking at that, thank you for all your hard work on all this one and all the other grants.
Now, Lindsay, we have you going over our schedule.
Yes, and I'm sorry, but my computer died, so I'm gonna do this off of my phone. Okay. The Republican Party meeting at 6 to 8 p.m. October 15th is a Board of County Commissioners regular scheduled meeting. Then October 15th is a road and bridge work session. October 15th is, the Board of Health meeting. That is what I have posted so far for the joint county commissioners meeting.
We got, municipal quarterly on the 17th.
We do.
And the C.TPR also on the 17th.
Yeah.
And we have road and bridge this afternoon,
We do,
1 o'clock, in this room.
in this room.
Great, thank you.
And Apple Fest this weekend.
Are you all going to that? Should I go ahead and post that?
Yeah.
I'll put it on our, there's a news section on our website that is called community events. So I do post those on our communities section.
Okay,
All I got.
okay, thank you. Next up is Colorado Water Conservation Board presentation, hydrologist Mariel Sigwell.
Good morning.
Yep, right there.
Thank you so much for this time this morning. I am joining you virtually. I usually like to make these presentations in person, but for new family members, I was not able to make it to Delta County to visit you guys today in person. I'm Mariel Seidel. I'm a hydrologist with the In-Stream Flow program in the Colorado Water Conservation Board. Joining me on this call as well is Katie Birch, the in-stream flow specialist with Colorado Parks and Wildlife. And while I hope this won't take a full hour, I wanted to give a presentation on our program and in-stream flow recommendations and the process for these recommendations in Delta County, and then open it up for ample questions that you may all have on these recommendations. So I'm going to present our presentation and we'll get going. If anyone has any questions they want to get started with, we can start now, or we'll just get going.
Go ahead and get going.
So just right out the gate, I want to let you know that this is an informational presentation. There is no board action required on this. This is part of our outreach that we do when we have in-stream flow water rights recommended within a county's boundaries. We want to make sure that everyone is aware of the water rights that are being recommended and the process that we go through to ensure that these water rights work with the stakeholders and the water and all the rest. So again, so we will, oh, sorry. So I will be doing a quick overview of the Colorado Water Conservation Board. I'll be doing a quick overview of the in-stream flow program, its history, and then I will be talking about how we identify the requirements for an in-stream flow water right. And then I'm going to be passing this over to Katie Birch to talk about the specific recommendations on Main, Middle, and West Hubbard Creeks above Overland Canal. So for those of you who are not familiar, and of course we have the Gunnison Roundtable present, but we at the Colorado Water Conservation Board have several sections. Our section that handles the in-stream flow program is the Stream and Lake Protection section. Now the CWCB, the Colorado Water Conservation Board, is governed by directors for each basin state plus Denver. The chair, the chair of the CWCB is down in Rio Grande, and then of course John McLeod, who wanted to be here today but couldn't because of the C9 summit, is going to be your director. Now these directors are the voting members that decide if in-stream flow water rights have met their their hurdles in order to become a water right, from just a recommendation to a water right. So we will present all of our information to these directors.
Hey, Marielle,
Yeah.
just so you know, we do have a hard stop at 10 for planning. So if you want to leave time for Q&A, thought you might want to need that.
I should be able to get through this in probably the next 15 minutes.
Okay.
But I will try to Zoom as best as possible, and I respect that hard stop, and thank you. So the program started in the 70s, sort of in response to the environmental movement, but also in response to the federal government moving more water in ways that Colorado wasn't comfortable with. And I actually worked on a Water Talk podcast that is available up on our website if you're more interested in sort of the decade by decade history of how our program got started. So the program got started with Senate Bill 7397, and these are going to be very important statutory language that carries through this program and sort of meets the hurdles. So we want Senate Bill 7397 recognize the need to correlate the activities of mankind with some reasonable preservation of the natural environment for water rights held on behalf of the people of the state of Colorado to protect the natural environment to a reasonable degree. So these are going to be minimum flow protections. The minimum amount of water required to protect the environmental need that has been recommended. So ISF, the legislation established that in-stream flow water rights and natural lake level water rights are in channel or in lake. For in-stream flow water rights, they're from between 2 points, a lower terminus and an upper terminus. And these are all going to preserve the natural environment to a reasonable degree. Again, very important statutory language that provides safeguards for overreach. So with this program, we worked to maintain flows in the streams and in the lakes while also providing regulatory certainty, because these water rights work within the prior appropriation system. And within our program, we have new appropriations, which is what I'm speaking about today. We have acquisitions, which take existing water rights that people have lent, leased, donated to us so that we could get a more senior water right. New appropriations are going to be very junior as of this year moving forward water rights. Then we also work on the legal protection side of things with a resume review each month, and then a physical protection. So we have gauges, so we know if our in-stream flow water rights aren't being met, we work with water commissioners to see what we can do to get more water into streams. So as of right now, we have mostly in the headwater streams, something around 17,000 ISF water rights in Colorado and 500 natural lake level water rights. So if we were to look at what 13 CFS, the 3 of 3 criteria, and I'll get into this in just a moment, looks like on the Little Cimarron. At this point in this picture, we have 13.5 CFS, and this is what a natural lake level, this is what an in-stream flow water right looks like. And so what we're looking at is not a ton of water. It's just water to move fish from place to place to protect the recommended aquatic species. So I wanted to talk a little bit more in depth about the timeline of the ISF. So it's in general, it's a 3-ish year process. And when I say ish, I mean it usually goes longer because we'll do a little bit more analysis or more outreach. But at minimum, it's a 3-year process where a recommender, and these are going to be usually Colorado Parks and Wildlife, BLM, High Country Conservation Advocates, they can be local counties, will identify a stream or a reach that they determine has a species, an aquatic species, or a species that should be protected within that reach. They'll identify flow rates that they're looking to support that an environmental need, and then they will present that to us at our ISF workshop. And now this is going to be that middle block right there. We hold an ISF workshop in January. And then from there, once these recommendations have reached our ISF workshop, that's when my work begins. And I will start the public notice process. I will let everyone know that we have these recommendations for in-stream flow water rights and natural lake levels under consideration. And then I will, in this period of time, work through water availability analysis, legal analysis, outreach analysis to make sure that I can justify presenting these in-stream flow water rights to the board in the following January. And then once we pass this middle bubble, then we pass it over to the board decision and hearing process. We'll present the science and the recommendation to the board in January. They'll consider it for two board sessions before they decide to take a final action in May. Now these are, of course, are for uncontested recommendations. The contest period is during this March to May period. So this is where our board of directors takes into consideration all that we have presented to them. So in order to make an in-stream flow water right passed to the board, what we need to present to the board and what they need to find are 3 findings. That a natural environment does exist. And now this can be typically a fishery, it can be an endangered species, it can be boreal toad, it can be a riparian area. So we need to present that the natural environment exists, and this generally comes from the recommender, not generally, this comes from the recommender. I will show the board that the natural environment will be preserved by the water that is available for appropriation, and I'll get into this process in just a second. Again, acknowledging the 10 o'clock hard stop. Now, with this water available, now that is, of course, all water that is not previously legally decreed in the basin. We'll use gauges with median stream hydrology, and if it's a natural lake level, we'll do surface elevation of the lake and volumetric capacity. And the third finding that we need to show the board in order to get an in-stream flow water right decreed is that no material injury will exist to other water right holders. And now so with new appropriations, they have a brand new adjudication date. So there's not going to be, they are the most junior in the basin. But then we also have this portion of the statute called the 1023B section, which recognizes any undecreed uses and exchanges that exist within the basin. So we have an opportunity to protect people's community water uses, undecreed water uses, without having them have to go through water court. Now, this doesn't change anything for their water court standing, but it does in terms of relationship to the ISF. So we're going to go just very quickly through the recommender roles, and this is going to be what Katie Birch is going to be talking about. They're going to identify the stream that they want to protect and the natural environment that they want to protect. They'll submit a recommendation, and it has to have specificity. So it has to have a species, it has to have flow rates. Recommenders will identify particular stakeholders that may need a little extra outreach, or they might identify stakeholders that are very supportive of the program. And then if it is a contested water right, then they'll stand up before water court in order to support that. In order to present this recommendation with specificity, there's a little bit of field work that is quite fun to participate in. It puts you in places like this. Now, this isn't in Gunnison. This is at the top of Guanilla Pass. We model recommended flows using a program called R2Cross. And now this is going to model hydraulic parameters of average depth, velocity, and percent wetted perimeter. And these are these have been identified as the hydraulic criteria that are going to be most helpful in allowing the passage of fish. So in order to do this field work, we have to go out and do a site selection. Now, in order we take this data at riffles, because we find, and the literature supports, that riffles are going to be the connectivity piece between pools, so that we can have the most habitat available for fish. And as you can see, as the snowmelt, let's just say in this area, wanes, if we have this riffle habitat still with water, then we're going to be having pool connectivity. So the R2 cross method, that is the basis of these recommendations, again, works on 3 parameters, hydraulic criteria, average depth, percent wetted perimeter, and average velocity. Now, for winter flow rates, recommendations for winter flow rates, we try to reach two of these 3 hydraulic criteria. And for summer peak flows, we try to reach 3 of these hydraulic criteria. Many original ISFs from the 1970s are going to be just 2 of 3, or even just 1 of 3 year round. So then once Katie gives this data to me, I will evaluate the data. I'll make sure that it all makes sense hydrologically. I will look at different water availability assessments. I will look if there's gauges. I will look at modeled flow. I will look at diversion record proxies. And then I'll go ahead and do outreach, which is one component of what we're doing with you right now. Because I want to make sure that you all know what's happening, so that in case anyone of your constituents have questions, you at least have an idea of what's happening and or be able to direct them to me. And then we'll inform the board in the January board meeting. So in order to, and this I think is probably a very important piece for you guys with your concerns, to be the water availability piece, is we don't try to get a water rate for water that doesn't exist. Now, when I look at a water rate recommendation, when I look at an ISF recommendation, I'm going to take into consideration all existing water rates in that basin. I'm going to take into consideration diversion histories. I'm going to take into consideration total water rate, decreed water rates. And then I'm going to look at the output of that basin at the lower terminus of where our stream reaches. It's really ideal if we have a gauge with a long-term record within our basin, because then it's a very clear cut. This is what water is available, especially after all of the diversions have taken place. We like to have gauges that have 20+ years of records, but that doesn't happen that often. And with those gauge records, we'll take what's called median hydrology. So then over the period of the record, for each individual day, we'll make sure that half of the flow rates are above and half of the flow rates are below. So that gives us a really conservative a really conservative estimate of what the stream is producing. In the lack of any sort of gauge records, any sort of consistent gauge records, we can prorate based on other gauges with similar basin characteristics, or we can use modeled flow. We, in the in-stream flow program, use a modeling program called CSU Flow 18, which is a very accurate modeled flow for ungauged systems. So this modeling program takes out of consideration any transbasin in or out. So it's just going to be it's just modeling natural flow. And I can get into any more of this during your questions if you'd like. For larger systems, we might use a point model, so a more complex vision of what the stream is producing. And then, of course, like I said, we'll always reach out to water commissioners, landowners, ditch and reservoir operators to make sure that we understand what's going through this basin and what sort of water rates are being used. Again, with the making sure that we're not trying to get a water rate for any water, for more water than is actually available. So if we were to start with these different parameters, the 3 of 3 flow rate and the 2 of 3 flow rate. So this summer flow rate at the top and the winter flow rate of the 2 of 3 at the bottom. And this is just up in the top corner. This is just hypothetical. This isn't an actual use case and not actually what's happening on the Hubbards. But we would say that with R2 cross, we got a modeled flow rate of mean velocity of 14.1 CFS and a mean depth of 1.9. So these are going to be sort of our guardrails as we're going through the water availability process. If we have a gauge, and this is for West Divide Creek, we will be able to sort of sculpt that flow rate, that year-round flow rate based on the gauge, again, fitting it within the water that is available. We can take that 2 of 3 and that 3 of 3 and fit it within the hydrograph so that we are ensuring that we're getting an ISF water rate for water that is coming out of the basin. And now you'll see, and Katie might speak to this as well, with the 3 recommendations that we're going to be talking about today, Main, Middle, and West Hubbard Creek, we actually have gauges at the lower terminus right above Overland Canal, which is in some ways unheard of. And it is going to make, it's a very clear vision of what is available for these streams. So then we'll pass off this water availability. We'll make the recommended ISF flow rate look something like this. So it will go until the middle of March at 1.1, which is less than the 2 of 3 hydraulic criteria, but because 2 of 3 didn't fit within the water availability, we had to cut it down. And then we might give it a shoulder season to initiate flow in the spring and the falling limb and the part where the stream dries out. And we'll get that 3 of 3 up between the middle of April and middle of July. So we'll present all of this data to the board, and they will be available for public feedback. They'll decide if we have adequately convinced they'll decide if we have made these 3 determinations. And then they'll decide whether or not there is sufficient scientific and natural environment evidence to make an appropriation. So today, Katie Birch is going to be talking about these 3 streams. They flow into Hubbard Creek, which ultimately flows into the North Fork of the Gunnison. You'll see the stream reach is in pink right here to highlight it. Now these stop midway through because there is the Overland Canal right at that spot. So I will, unless there's any questions on the program and process, I'm going to hand this over to Katie so that she can talk about the specific recommendation, the natural environment that is being presented, and then we'll open up for broader questions.
Any questions?
I'll hold mine to the end.
Okay.
That sounds good. Good morning, commissioners. Thanks, Marielle. I'm Katie Birch. I'm the in-stream flow program specialist for Colorado Parks and Wildlife. And I'll get into some of the details about CPW's interest in these in-stream flows on the Hubbard tributaries. And this is a nice photo of a cutthroat caught in one of the Hubbard drainages. And Marielle, you can slip to the next slide. So why are we interested in recommending in-stream flows on the Hubbards? Both of these 3, or all 3 of these tributaries support Colorado River cutthroat trout, which are a tier 1 species of greatest conservation need. And Marielle, on the next slide, I think there's a couple of bullets you can just flip through. There's 4 of them, I think. So basically, the Colorado River cutthroat trout were identified in our state wildlife action plan as requiring significant conservation measures. The species occupy less than half of their native range, and CPW would like to eliminate or reduce threats that might lead them to be listed under the Endangered Species Act. For context, a comparable native cutthroat, the greenback cutthroat, which is actually native to the East Slope, was listed. And so I think these species are on the path to a potential listing, if not for some of these very defined conservation measures. And CPW is a signatory to the Colorado River Cutthroat Trout Conservation Strategy, along with other states, tribes, and federal agencies, including the Fish and Wildlife Service, where some of these conservation actions are explicitly spelled out. The goal is to prevent a federal listing. I think that's within everyone in the state's best interest so that water development can continue. And specifically, one of those measures is to secure and enhance conservation populations and the watershed conditions that they rely on. So the Hubbard tributaries support conservation populations of cutthroat trout, and in-stream flow is a measurable conservation action that the state can point to if the species were ever petitioned to be listed. So that's CPW's interest. Thanks, Marielle. So what are we talking about here? These are the three Hubbard tributaries, Main, Middle, and West Hubbard Creek. And each of these tributaries support core conservation populations of cutthroat above the Overland Canal. And the Overland Canal is a huge canal system that pulls water from Overland Reservoir and intercepts a number of tributaries in the North Fork Gunnison. It's a huge canal system. I don't know the exact water right off the top of my head, but it's significant. And what's interesting about the canal and its intercept on these tributaries is it actually creates a fish barrier. So it's most of the year a sweeping structure that dries up these creeks. And because of the fact that it's a sweeping structure and the fact that the infrastructure has a big drop, it's actually helped enable these core conservation populations to stay intact. And Marielle, you can switch forward. There's a picture of that structure. And so you can see more flow in the canal than in the tributaries, but it does pick up the tributary flows and convey them down to some irrigated lands in the vicinity of Paonia. And yeah, that infrastructure has really allowed these cutthroat to stay intact, and CPW is working to shore up that fish barrier and kind of formalize it because it's something we really want to see move forward into the future. We can flip to the next slide. So CPW has been working on this recommendation for the better part of 4 years. It's very difficult to get into these streams because they're pretty remote first order streams, but we've finally completed that R2 cross analysis that Marielle was talking about. So on West Hubbard Creek, we performed 2 cross sections in 2023, basically showing the need for about 0.4 CFS during the base flow period and about 6.5 CFS during that high flow period, which is limited to spring runoff. These are the biological flow recommendations, and given the gauge records, water availability likely won't support this full recommendation, and so we'll shape and limit those biological flow recommendations to fit within the median hydrology. Next slide. And here's results for Main Hubbard Creek. As you can see, the tributary looks very similar. We're looking for slightly higher base flows of 1.4 CFS and then around 3 CFS during the high flow period. Similarly, these are the biological preliminary flow recommendations, and they're going to be fine-tuned to fit within the water that's physically available in the stream. And then the next slide will show results from Middle Hubbard Creek. which looks almost exactly like the other two. They're all very comparable. And we're looking for a base flow of 1.1 CFS and a high flow of around 5.5 CFS, which again is going to be cut back for that individual gauge data on the stream. And the only thing that I'll note here is that these in-stream flows are basically going to extend from the headwaters to that Overland Canal intercept point. And so we're going to be securing a junior water right that is protective moving forward, but it's not going to impede that senior water rights ability to do what it's done historically. And I think I've got one last slide, thanks, and we can open it up for any questions.
This is Wendell Coates. Thank you for the presentation. That's good data. I've got a bunch of questions, actually, I'm trying to sort through. You said you've got 2 cross sections on the main Hubbard. Have you done any raw physical data work like that on the middle and the west?
Yeah, thank you for asking that clarifying question. So all of the data I presented is site specific to those individual tributaries. So for each of those tributaries, we collected at least 2 cross sections to inform those biological flow recommendations. I had glossed over that, so I appreciate the clarification.
Oh, no, good. Glad to hear you've done that. Have you actually gone back and done any back analysis on work done on prior ISFs to make sure that your modeling is accurate?
I'll go ahead and take this one. So the modeling, or sorry, Katie, you can also respond to the R2 cross aspect, but the stream flow, the stream flow that the basin supports, we're going to be looking at the gauge records. We're also going to be looking at Water Commissioner's notes on that diversion structure at the Overland, and then looking potentially at modeled flow and just sort of finding the water that is available. And now, are you talking specifically about R2 cross, or are you talking about the water that is available?
The R2 cross.
Okay, great.
Yeah, and the only thing I'll add is that this method has been used since basically the beginning of the program in 1973. And because these riffle features that we survey are hydraulic controls, it's actually surprising how valid this data is historically. I mean, if there's a big change in channel geometry, that could change, but these results that the model produced are surprisingly accurate, even going back and looking at cross sections that were collected in, say, 1978 at the beginning of the program.
That's good information. Know that your modeling is working. Is there pre-existing water rights on any of those 3 tributaries?
No.
Above the Overland Canal, there are no pre-existing water rights.
I guess my last question then is, not just on the Hubbard, but on also Muddy and other ISF applications. One of the things the stakeholders I keep hearing is they'd like to have more than one public meeting, public notice on these ISF appropriations. So a couple of times so that everybody can get to them. Oftentimes they feel like they've been notified very late in the process.
That's good information to hear. And we have been working as closely as we can with Raquel Flinker with the River District, and as well with North Fork, to be as available as possible as the constituents need to make sure that we have everything above board and available for their information.
Muddy was a tough one to get the right public notice and public participation in.
Mm-hmm.
That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Thank you. You answered all of my questions on that. A lot of good information. Thank you for presenting it to where we can kind of understand it. It's kind of down in the weeds material, but it's very helpful. And thank you very much for this.
Absolutely. Thank you for the time. And if there are no other questions, I want to be sure that you all know you have this presentation in your board packet. It was sent to you, which has both Katie Birch and my contact. As well, there's also all the information that all the contact information that you need on CWCB's website. If you go to the Ecosystem Protection In-Stream Flow Program or just into the staff boards, please feel free to reach out to me, to Rob Veal, our section chief, if you have any questions or if any of your constituents have any questions. We are more than happy to talk about the program and the specific recommendations and any concerns.
Okay, thank you.
Thank you.
Mhm.
Thank you very much.
Okay, have a good day.
You too.
10 o'clock, we have planning. I'll read the Delta County Detention Facility Population Count Report for Sunday, September 29th, 2024. Male inmates County Jail 31, female inmates County Jail 7, male inmates Department of Corrections 6, female inmates Department of Corrections 2, for a total of 46. Average daily inmate population for the week of 9/23/24 through 9/29/24 was 53.96. And planning will be at 10 o'clock, so we'll be in recess until 10 o'clock. Thank you. Okay, thank you. It's 10 o'clock. Before we get started with planning, we have one constituent that'd like to address the board. State your name and address for the record, please.
I can. My name is Myron Anduri. I live at 14556 G Road, just right outside of town here. And appreciate the opportunity to talk with you. I was here 2 years ago and raised strong concerns about the traffic on G Road. And I know that since then, there's been a number of people that have approached the commission and have done various complaints. And I just wanted to come and mention a couple of things. First of all, let me back up. I managed a company that built traffic control products for about 15 years. And these are warning signs, school zone flashers, the type of products that would be very fit for G Road. I'm no longer with that company. I'm semi-retired. But I've become really baffled, as have my neighbors, as to why this problem just continues to go on and on and on, when it is so apparent to me, anyway, from my experience, and I've been to a number of traffic conferences and trade shows and whatnot. I've been in this business for quite some time. This isn't that difficult of a problem to solve. And my neighbors have approached me a number of times and said, we got to slow this traffic down. This is crazy. And it's all true. The other interesting thing, or the part to consider too, is that one way to reduce the speed is reduce the quantity. And looking out over G Road, which I do every day, it's very, very clear that the quantity of traffic that's causing the problems does not originate in Delta County and does not end in Delta County. It's commuting traffic of both commercial and there's people that are coming from between Montrose and Grand Junction. And they use that as a bypass. And so I've taken some time to actually interview some people that make that bypass, come to some interesting data for you. One is a gentleman who I know quite well who doesn't do it anymore and comes through town and says they realize it's actually faster to use the state highway. Most people that I've talked to that have come through there that I know have actually stops them is that they like the rural nature of bypassing Delta. It's fun to go through the farm country, okay, to the degradation of two things. One is the people that live on G Road that have to, and in the area that have to use it, that are from Delta County. Secondly, there's a significant amount of traffic, hundreds of people a day that could otherwise be going through Delta in front of the merchants. And anybody that does any marketing knows that a certain amount of people are going to stop and have a burger or go to the hardware store or do whatever they do. So we've got a double negative going on here, and it's been going on for some time, where we have a tremendous inconvenience for rural residents of Delta County. And we also have a missed out revenue opportunity for the people of Delta who own businesses as well as the tax base there. So I guess I'm really coming here to ask you, why does this take so long? And is there anything, or do we even agree that there's a problem? I know I've read some things in the paper, but I can't really judge from there without asking you directly what's really going on here. And finally, I would recommend, and I will just state again, I not only have I been in the industry, but I also had public office, just like you have, in another county. And, you know, it's difficult sometimes to make decisions, but we have to do it. And I would just recommend to this, you guys, to the commission, that you come up with a motion that says we're going to solve this problem and we're going to do it in 6 months. Have a date so that the people that work underneath, the county employees and others know, and the citizens know that there's a solution that's coming through here. I have solutions. I won't share them with you today, but they're not that difficult. Any traffic engineer could come up with it in fairly short order. And this is also a test case I would like to pose to you as a way to preserve the rural nature of Delta County. And this is the problem across Colorado. We're growing, and how do you keep the rural parts rural and keep the traffic where it needs to go? So I'm just here to express my concerns that, one, we have a huge problem, bigger than maybe what's been expressed in the past. It's going to continue to be that way as we grow, and it needs to be resolved for the benefit of the electorate. There's no benefits to Delta County and the Delta County citizens to allowing a corridor of commuters that do not stop in the county, don't spend any money on the county. They just come through at high speed to get on their way when they should be headed to the state highway. And as you know, there's a horribly dangerous bridge on that road. And there's also, that road was never designed for that kind of traffic at that kind of speed, yet we still allow it. And I don't understand. I'll leave that's my citizen comment.
Thank you, Mr. Drury. We have a meeting 1 o'clock this afternoon in this room here. And part of the discussion will be G Road. We've got a new engineering plan for the intersection of G Road and Sawmill Mesa, how to control the traffic. Speed is an issue. We've been aware of that. There's been some issues with getting the engineering plan completed. But, and then reducing the speed, more stop signs at 2 different intersections.
Mm-hmm.
One goal is if you reduce the speed limit, then Google or whatever map service that the out-of-state people and commuters are using, you lower the speed limit, then Google shows it's not the quickest route between Grand Junction and Montrose or whatever. So that's one avenue that hopefully if we reduce it enough that Google will take it off that, and then it won't be the fastest, the quickest route. It'll be the state highway. And then with the stop signs also.
I would suggest real quick, and I know I appreciate my time, it's very limited. You're right, except that the real problem is not Google, it is a problem. The real problem is the continued commuters that know anyway. And what we see on that road is not only people hauling tail, as you know, but the construction trades that move back and forth between the Mesa County and Montrose County. They're not using Google because they've been using the road for the last 5 years or so. And it's an unintentional consequence of what happened when we built the bypass here in Delta. We know that. So appreciate what you're saying there. The Google is important. It's good. It's especially.
But what Mr. Layton said is by lowering those speeds, you will deter the commuter also.
Absolutely.
And the stop signs will deter the commuter.
So.
And I want to address your comment about making a motion to get this done. We've had this discussion numerous times. We don't just make a motion that an engineering firm has to come in and do our engineering. We searched for a long time to find an engineering firm that would even take this on. It's taken time to get them to get this done. So I can assure you, you know, we understand the issue here. We have been working on this issue. It has not fallen on deaf ears, and it has taken some time to get engineering done on this intersection. So.
I don't know, I could respond to that in a negative way, but I won't. Man, I appreciate that you're doing it. It's not that challenging for an engineering firm, so that's why I'm baffled. But
I wish to God we could have got it done quicker and sooner than what we did, but it did not happen that way, so.
Well, I would, a stop sign at 1150 road, a stop sign, you know, fixing the Sawmill Mesa, dropping that main speed to 40 miles an hour. It's obvious to me, but, maybe
Well,
not.
and we have to kind of cover the county issues also. If you go and put in a stop sign without noticing the public, there can be adverse consequences to that, so
Well,
we have to.
you're right,
notice it.
and Commissioner, to both of your points, it's better to do this all at one time and not incrementally. So that you have signage at each side, the world knows that things have changed.
Right.
You do it at one time, so I applaud your efforts absolutely to do that and recommended it. Do it all at once. I'm glad to hear. I did not know that you'd made this progress. It's not been accurately
But
reported.
you're welcome at the 1 o'clock meeting.
Thank you. I'd like to be there. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Thank you. Okay, back on the agenda, and we'll turn it over to the planning department.
All right, the first application we have for you today is PLN 21-49 Rasmussen. This application is for the consideration of a preliminary plat to subdivide 36.19 acres into 12 lots in the A5 zoning district. The property is located on the south side of Cedar Mesa Road in Cedar Ridge. The proposal is again to subdivide 36.19 acres into the remaining lots at Cedar Mesa Estate subdivision while phasing the project. Phase 1 was completed in 2013 by the previous owners. When Mr. Rasmussen bought the property, it was with the intent of finishing the phases of the Cedar Mesa Estate subdivision. With that being said, the county has determined that Mr. Rasmussen can continue the subdivision in phases to include lots that range from 1.66 acres to 5.02 acres. Access for phase 2 is existing from 2625 lane for lots 11 through 14. And access for phase 3 is existing from Stardust lane for lots 3 through 10. Water is proposed to be served from Upper Surface Creek for all lots. Upper Surface Creek has confirmed that 2 out of the 12 taps have been purchased and that the infrastructure for phase 3 has been completed and the infrastructure for phase 2 is being installed. There is an existing OWTS permit for lot 12 for the existing residents. And all other septic systems will be applied for and installed by landowners for each lot. The parcel is approximately 2.35 miles directly east of the town of Cedar Ridge on the south side of Cedar Mesa Road. Next. Go to the next one. Zoning map, again, the property has been zoned A5. As you can see, adjacent properties have been zoned A5 on the north side of Cedar Mesa Road, with areas of A20 to the south and A35 to the north and east. You can also see the UGA to the west, which is where the town of Cedar Ridge is located. Acreages in the area range from 0.5 acres to 231.2 acres. Here's the preliminary plat for the proposed subdivision, including both remaining phases. Phase 1 has been completed in green. Phase 2 includes lots 11 through 14. Lot 12 consists of a single family residence that is fully established. I'm talking about the blue area here now. Lot 13 is currently going through development for a single family residence, and water taps for both these lots have been purchased and installed. And then phase 3, in the purple, includes lots 3 through 10, all of which are currently vacant. Upper Surface Creek infrastructure for the subdivision has been installed. However, taps for each lot still need to be purchased. Access permits will be issued to each lot within the subdivision. Stardust Lane will be inspected by county engineering once the road is completed. and 2625 lane will also be inspected by county engineering once the road is completed. Once the lots are approved and an access permit issued for each lot, the landowners of each lot will be able to apply for address and for OWTS permits. All right, next. So staff has recommended 9 conditions, which are included in the staff report. The conditions include, but are not limited to, phasing for the property, all existing and proposed easements and encumbrances, including access, shall be shown on the final plat. Proof of water purchase, plat notes, access permits, and final plat deeds. The Planning Commission added language to condition number 3 to include a favorable recommendation from Environmental Health for sewage disposal. With that, the Planning Commission recommends that the Board of County Commissioners find PLN 21-49 Cedar Mesa Estates complies with applicable requirements of the 2021 Land Use Code for a preliminary plat and conditionally approve a preliminary plat for Cedar Mesa Estates subdivision, creating 12 lots to include phasing. That concludes my presentation, and Mr. and Mrs. Rasmussen are present.
Do you have anything that you'd like to add to that?
Yeah, one, if you can go back to the map. So the
Sir,
phase.
please introduce yourself.
Oh, I'm sorry, Shannon Rasmussen, 26-380 Cedar Mesa Road.
Thank you.
For phase 2, the water and electric is completed on 2625 lane. But the water is just starting installation along the southern portion to complete to here. So this is complete, this is not complete yet, but it is started.
So the line will be looped.
The line will be looped along with electric as well. Electric and water will be looped.
Very good.
Well done, Mayor.
My only other, I don't know if this is appropriate time, but comment concern is amongst the water taps. I'm not in favor of that. Because once I pay for the water tap fee, that $60 per month starts, and I don't think that that is the intent of the land use code. So I have a letter from Upper Surface Creek that I've transferred the water shares, which is the intent is to provide adequate water supply. Those shares have been transferred, they're in their possession. So to me, that meets the intent of having adequate water supply. The fee for the actual water tap is just fee, which would be paid when the lot sells or at some point, but I don't think that that is required to show adequate water supply.
It's actually, Shannon, that's the process that we've had to come to because of too many issues throughout the county of people trying to develop a lot without proper water.
Yep.
And we don't have, and then we end up with problems because we've got lots out there without water. And so we're trying, that's been a county policy for a long time, to require those taps. Because it's the only way we're guaranteed that tap serves that lot. Otherwise, you could say, tell a buyer, hey, you gotta buy your tap when you buy the lot. The buyer says, nah, I'll just haul water. And then that's increasing our problem that we have currently in the county. So
sure,
that's the reason it's in the code the way it is. I know it's not favorable to developers, but there is a reason that we do that, and it's because there's just been too many situations throughout the county where we've run into that problem when that tap is not part of the
sure. But that's not what the code says. That's my concern. It says that adequate water supply needs to be provided or proof thereof, which to me is the shares. It doesn't say that a tap needs to be purchased.
The shares are useless without the tap.
But the tap's just a mechanical device. It does not.
But the purchase of the tap from Upper Surface Creek. When we talk about tap, we're not talking about the mechanical tap. We're talking about the purchase of the tap.
But
We're
that
talking
does
about
not-
the piece of paper that has
That
the
does
tap
not
certificate.
provide water to it unless the shares are with it. those are two separate mechanisms. When you pay for that tap, it's 13,000 and change now. 11,500 of that is for the tap.
Right.
And the other portion of that is for the actual water shares.
And I understand, it's not favorable to the developer, but it's.
And not every water system has that water share requirement.
Right. Absolutely. Okay.
Thank you.
And Mr. Rasmussen, are you comfortable with the dedication of the right of way on Cedar Mesa Road?
Yes. I did have a question about the access permits, but I think that's just a question for later. There was one more constraint in there about an open space fee. I'm just not aware of what that is. It's the first time I'd seen it.
It's a $500 per lot, open space fee that's charged to every created lot in the county.
I think it's $300.
It's 300, sorry, 500 was the fire, 300, yes, sorry.
What is the fund used for? Where does it?
It goes into our open space fund, and this was something that was started a long time ago. Some subdivisions have their own open space, it's used to maintain and develop that. If not, it goes to an open space fund that will go to public property within the near area to keep that up and going.
That was it. Thank you.
Thank you.
I have nothing else.
Number 20?
Yep.
Okay. Well, I'll move that the board adopt resolution number 2024-R-20, a resolution conditionally approving a preliminary plat, PLN 21-049, Rasmussen with phasing to subdivide 36.19 acres into 12 lots in the A5 zoning district located on the south side of Cedar Mesa Road in Cedar Edge.
Second.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. So done. Thank you. Thank you, Mr. Vice Speaker.
Thank you.
Okay, our next project is PLN 23-140 Armstrong. This is to accept dedication of road right of way to Delta County for Ward Creek Road as a public road. The property is located on the east side of Ward Creek Road in Cedar Edge. This is the final plat. The application was for a minor plat, including a stewardship area. Lots 1 and 2 will be residential lot with the remainder being held in a stewardship area. Road right-of-way dedication is illustrated in red along Ward Creek Road in the amount of 3.015 acres. So with that, staff recommends that your board accept dedication of road right-of-way for Ward Creek Road in the amount of 3.05 acres and authorize the chair to sign the final plat. And I don't see that Mr. Armstrong is here.
It's pretty straightforward.
I'll move that the board accept PLN 23-140 Armstrong, accepting dedication of right of way to Delta County for Ward Creek Road, 3.015 acres.
Authorized chair to sign.
Authorized chair to sign.
Second.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Thank you.
The last application before you today is project 24-33 Holder, which consists of two considerations. The first is to rezone the subject property, which is 28.78 acres. And the second is to conditionally approve a preliminary plat subdividing the property into 11 lots, including phasing. The subject property is located on the north side of E Road in Delta. The proposal is to subdivide the 28.78 acres into the remaining lots of the Coyote Run subdivision while phasing the project. The proposed lots range from 1.6 acres to 2.8 acres. As none of the proposed lots meet the minimum acreage required by the zoning district, a rezone is being applied for from the A20 zoning district to the new zoning district of residential 1 acre or Res 1. The rezone complies with the plat note, which is a restriction as recorded on the final plat of phase 4, which states landowner shall have the ability for one additional variance hearing. Shall the land use code be updated to reflect additional zoning designations prior to the variance being applied for? Lot 1 shall be rezoned prior to further subdivision. Lot 1 of phase 4 was the remainder parcel. Access is existing from 2055 lane. Phase 5 will complete the road construction and access for lots 6 through 8. Access for all future phases will be from our new road, which will be required to be built to county standards and will be named by county GIS. The project site is located on the north side of E Road, about 3.02 miles easterly of the city of Delta. As you can see, the parcel has been zoned A20 with areas of A20 to the north and areas of A5 and A35 to the south and east of the property, with acreages ranging from 1.1 acres to 159.4 acres. This is the rezone map illustrating the entire area that will be rezoned from A20 to Res 1. This is the preliminary plat for the proposed subdivision, including all phases. The lots in white are phases 1 through 4, lots 1 through 5, which have been completed. The concurrent phases are highlighted accordingly. With phase 5, Tri-County water infrastructure is in place with taps purchased for each lot. Taps for all future phases will be purchased and installed prior to recording the final plat of each phase. Access permits will be issued to each lot within the subdivision. 2055 lane will be inspected by county engineering once the road is completed. Access permits have been issued for lots 6 through 8, as well as address assignments. OWTS permits are being applied for with the development of each lot. Staff has recommended 14 conditions, which are included in the staff report. The conditions include, but are not limited to, phasing and amending the zoning maps once the rezone is completed for the property. All existing and proposed easements and encumbrances, including access, shall be shown on the final plat. And proof of water purchase, plat notes, UVWUA, plat notes requirements, access permits, maintenance agreement for the new road, traffic impact study, and final plat fees. The Planning Commission added language to condition number 4 to include a favorable recommendation from environmental health for sewage disposal. With that, the Planning Commission recommends that the Board of County Commissioners find that project 2433 Holder complies with the applicable requirements of the 2024 Land Use Code for a preliminary plat, and approve a rezone from A20 to Res 1 for the subject 28.78 acres, and conditionally approve a preliminary plat for the Coyote Run subdivision, creating 11 lots to include phasing. That concludes my presentation, and Mr. Holder is present.
Anything you'd like to add, Mr. Holder? Over here. Over here, okay. Well, that's pretty complete. Okay. And this will be a resolution also.
I think that's a pretty well done staff report there. I really don't have any questions on this. Mr. Chairman.
I'll move that the board adopt resolution number 2024-R-21. Resolution approving project 24-033 Holder. To one, amend the Delta County Land Use Code zoning maps, rezoning 28.78 acres from agriculture of 20 acre A20 to residential 1 acre res 1, and conditionally approve a preliminary plat to subdivide 28.78 acres into 11 residential lots of at least 1 acre. The project is located on the north side of E Road in Delta.
Second.
Motion and second on the floor. Any further discussion? If not, all those in favor say aye.
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 Aye, so done. Thank you.
Good luck.
Thank you.
Thank you.
And do you have the plat for me to sign?
I forgot it in our, I'll bring it over.
Thank you for the presentation, Sue. Very good. Thank you. Okay, next.
We're done with you guys. You guys can go on your way. But you got something else?
No, that's it. I was hoping to get a little audience with John, but I think we got to move on.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, it's at 10:30, which is 1 minute away, so we'll go ahead and continue with Blair and Associates, Pete Blair. And we have one item to add to the agenda concerning the supplemental budget resolution that needs to be included in Mr. Blair's presentation, and we just got the figures for it last night.
Thanks, Sean. Thanks, guys.
Thank you.
You done?
Does it matter where I sit?
No.
How are you today?
I don't know. Been busy. Trying to get a whole bunch of stuff done before I go on vacation. I gotta thank Leona, because she's been busy too.
Yeah, Leona's always been there.
So, John is asking if we can do the supplemental at the next.
And we moved we had one more.
Okay.
So
So,
we'll move the supplemental to the next meeting.
Okay, it's been decided to move the supplemental resolution to our October 15th meeting. Okay, thank you.
Okay,
There'll be a test on this.
yeah, if you pass it, then,
You can get to go on vacation if we
you get to
don't.
go home.
Thank you.
We're not quite done yet. This is. We're finishing up the fixed assets. They've made a little bit of changes on how we report those, so. We're close, but the fixed assets aren't quite done. Has no really bearing on the audit because really you want to deal with the governmental funds anyways. If we go to the letter, there's a letter out there, maybe 2 pages. Nothing has really changed from 2022, except for they now have what they call GASB 96 on how we deal with dues and subscriptions and whether they should be capitalized or not. And we've been looking at those and we'll see if we need to pick some of those up. A good example would be like some counties have a lot of dues and subscriptions. If they're over 5,000, we may capitalize. Just depending on how it goes. As far as
estimates, nothing has really changed from 2022. As we said in the past, depreciation expense is an estimate. Landfill closure costs and post-closure costs are estimates. And also that we have an estimate as far as the gravel cost in the road and bridge department. If you go to the second page of that letter, you're gonna see probably about the second paragraph down, we did make 9 auditing journal entries. Of half of those are GASB 34 entries and bring you back on a full accrual basis. So basically only having 9 AJEs is really good. I just got done doing a county, we had about 45. So it was a lot more than that. If you go to the management report, it's the one that's got all the good graphs and stuff. This actually puts it into a summary of how did the county do. And if you look at fund balances, which is the first graph, I think it's on the 3rd page. You're gonna see a comparison of 2003 to 2022. So if you take that first column, you can look at the general fund balance did go down from 6.8 to about 5.4. This was actually budgeted because of capital outlay. You got a lot of capital outlay going on as far as the jail system. And you were doing some stuff also with the library, right? Finishing up the library.
The new sheriff's department.
If you look at the next one, human services, they went from 164,000 in the good to a negative 81,000. What we've noticed, and we do about 8 county audits right now, what we've noticed is if there's 2 funds that are struggling right now on all county levels, it's health and human services, it's also the health department. Most of the time they have to be subsidized by the general fund or whatever.
Pete, is that a COVID related?
Well, they got that COVID money, they used it. And then a lot of it is, yes, a lot of it's just more services and more strains put on those departments. If you look at road and bridge, it went from 4.5 down to 3.5. Again, that was budgeted. You did some capital outlay as far as road improvements. And then if you look at the capital improvement fund, again, that went from 5.4 to 3. That I think takes in those capital outlay projects that you're doing,
The library and the sheriff's department.
the library and the sheriff's department. And then if you look at the American Rescue Funds, they went down, it's all capital outlay related. You got that big chunk of money and now you have to spend it. And then if you look at the safety improvement sales tax fund, that actually went up from 2.3 to about 3.6. All the other funds went up a little bit, not much. They went from about 6 million to about 6.2. If you go to the next graph, it actually gives you comparisons of how you budgeted your revenues and what you actually took in. And if you go look at the general fund, the first one, you budgeted about 13.5 million, you took in just less than 13.9. That's pretty close to the budget. And the big difference was sales tax had a lot more sales tax, and interest income was the big factor. I think in 2022, the interest rates were pretty low. In 2023, they were up about 4%. If you look at human services, they budget on a caseload basis. So they budgeted high. It actually was a little bit less as far as revenues because caseload was down a little bit in that sector. And then if you look at road and bridge, you budgeted about 4 million, you got about 4.2. Again, that was mainly in, I think that was mainly in mineral leasing and reimbursements. I think, mineral leasing was up a little bit by 144,000. And reimbursements were up about 300,000. And HUD, which was kind of interesting, is highway user tax is down a little bit. If you look at capital improvement fund, again, that was pretty close to what you budgeted. It was 4.5 compared to 3.6. Again, mainly sales tax and interest. And then if you look at the sales tax improvement fund for the police department, that was up, it was all sales tax. So revenues are pretty well right where you wanted them to be as far as what the budget was.
Hey, Pete, can we back up a little?
Yeah.
On that highway user tax, what do you attribute the decline to? Because we're seeing a lot more travel.
Is that what it is?
The state's taking that money and out, putting it into multimodal instead of.
Is that what it was?
Yeah.
And we noticed that in some of the other counties, but we weren't quite sure why.
No, it's reallocation of CDOT trying to shift where they spend their money.
Operating expenses. You look at your budget comparisons for that, you always budget a little bit high, and it always is lower than that. So if you take the general fund, you budgeted about 17,600,000, pretty close, and it'll be about 17,200,000. And if you look at Health and Human Services, of course, that goes by caseload again, so they budget a little bit high and expenses were a little bit lower. And if you look at Road and Bridge, you budgeted about 7.5, ended up being about 6. And some of that had to do with capital improvements that you budgeted for that you didn't quite get done. I think you budgeted around 2 million and you did about 1 million. And if you look at the American Rescue Fund, you budgeted mainly what it was gonna cost to do the projects that quite haven't gotten done yet, so you only spent about 800,000.
We were gonna start the jail in late 2023, but we didn't start it till 2024, but those funds are pretty much been expended for 2024.
And that's why we're here today.
Yeah.
They're working on it. And then if you look at the safety improvement sales tax, they budgeted about 1.8, they only spent 900,000. Mainly it was in capital outlay. They had budgeted about 735,000 more to be used, and they did use it. Now, the only thing is on that safety improvement sales tax, there's a sunset on that, and I can't remember when that ends.
Started in 2020 and we have 10 years. Correct.
Okay, so you have a little bit of time. And a lot of the municipalities are kind of worried about that because how are they gonna budget for it if they don't reapprove that? If you go to the actual audit report, I'm just gonna briefly go over it. And just go over a couple highlights. Clean opinion. Everything was done properly. You were required to have a single audit again this year, like you had in the past. And that's because you have federal assistance more than 750,000. I think, the county federal assistance was just a little bit over 6 million. We did a little bit different this year. Last year, when we did the compliance testing, we really hit hard on the social services part as far as the federal dollars going through it. This year, you have to kind of rotate that under the single audit requirements. So we really hit on general administration and how they dealt with the American Rescue Fund expenditures, and also as a JUST grant.
Yes.
The JUST grant, which is part of it's a public safety.
It's part of the remodel for the detention center for the HVAC system.
So what we've done is we looked at those and make sure that you were in compliance.
Bullet resistant.
Yeah, the windows for the new sheriff's department, I'm sorry.
They were pretty easy to test because, let's face it, it's mainly capital outlay expenditures, so they're pretty easy to test on. There the way they did those ARP monies, as long as you put them into capital outlay, you really didn't have a problem with that. And you designated to where you wanted that to go. You designated all your ARP, if I'm not mistaken, to the jail system, so. So anyways, we had no compliance issues or internal control issues with the single audit. And we had no internal control issues with the financial statements either. So you're in good shape there. I'm gonna skip a little bit. And I'm gonna kind of go over. I'm gonna skip to page 20. And this actually shows the the enterprise funds. And if you look at the landfill, and it's also broken off by the non-major one, which is E911. So if you take
I don't see landfill on page 20.
it should be on the far left.
Oh, I got it. Thank you. Sorry.
Should be on the far left there. Okay, if you look at 23 column compared to 22, and you go down maybe where it says total assets, look how close it was from 2022. Not much difference. You did go up a little bit in cash. Capital assets went down a little bit, and that was mainly because of depreciation. So basically, there was hardly any difference in the enterprise funds. If you go towards the liability section, the post-closure costs did go up. I think they went up about 165,000. But your lease payable went down. I think you paid off one lease and you only have one lease left. So really, if you look at this page and you look at your accrued post-closure cost, which is about 2.3 million, you have plenty of assets to pay that. You have double that amount or maybe triple that amount just in cash. So as far as a financial assurance with the state, you're in great shape. They say you can pay off that liability. If you go to page 21, it actually breaks down the revenues and expenses for those enterprise funds. And you're going to notice when you go down about the third line from the bottom where it says change in net position, you're going to say, well, the landfill actually had a loss of 107,000. But of that loss, 435,000 was depreciation costs. So what I'm trying to tell you here is you're probably in a good position as far as what you're collecting on land fees as far as the revenues. I know in the past we had increased those, and that was a good thing to do that. So that right now you're in really good shape.
That's good to hear because we got some major expenses coming up for 25.
Yeah, you have the revenue and you have the cash to do that because you have about 7 million.
A little over 1 million equipment purchases and then permitting and construction themselves.
Yeah, so it sounds like you guys did a really good job with that fund. If you go to the next page, which is on page 22, it actually brings everything back on a cash basis. So if you go to the middle of page 22, where it says cash and cash equivalents at the end of the year, you're going to notice that the landfill actually increased in cash to that about 5.9. Because depreciation has no effect on cash flow. So that tells me, as again, you're right in the right position you need to be. Page 23 is a little bit different. Page 23 was a new requirement. It was a part of that GASB 84. And GASB 84 said, If you have custodial funds out there, we want to know what those are. And so this brings all those custodial funds into the county too. And mainly those custodial funds is public trustee. Help me out a little bit, county clerk fees.
Booking fees, inmate welfare fees.
And yeah, we used to have the sheriff in there, but the sheriff has been taken out because he has his separate funds now with the booking fee and the inmate account. So if we go to. Okay, here we go. Here we go to page 26. I'll tell you what those custodial fees were. If you go to page 26, under the new requirements, if you look halfway down page 26, we're going to see those custodial funds or fiduciary funds of about 1.3 million, of which 637,000 is with the treasurer. 490,000 is clerk fee funds, and then 185,000 was with the public trustee. And those are earmarked various ways as they go back into the county. Which I thought was interesting. We actually have one county made a mistake and they were actually trying to put the clerk fee funds into the general fund. I said, you can't do that. Those are separate. Okay, if you go to page 36, you're gonna see, note D, this is the only debt right now that the county has. Besides compensated absences, and it's that lease on that cap. And that'll be paid off in 2027. That's the breakdown of the principal and interest on that debt. If you go down part of page 36, in the last line on page 36, you have a Tabor restriction of about 435,000. And then let's go to page 39, note K, because I always think this is an interesting one. This lists all the transfers that the county made in between other funds. And these were all budgeted transfers. So you can see how they go from one fund to another. And they will also be in those funds as you go through the fund streams. If you go to page 40, again, I think this is also one that is very good because it also tells you what you have assigned as far as fund balances, what is restricted as far as fund balances, and what is committed as far as fund balances. So if you look at that first part where it says restricted on note L, the only really major restrictions you have is the Tabor requirement at the 435,000, and you do have lottery funds that are restricted at 514,000. If you go down where it talks about all the committed ones, these are the committed on the special revenue funds. They normally stay with that fund, and you can just go down that, and that's about 17 million. And then if you go down where it says non-spendable, that's your inventory, gravel and stuff like that. That's really not spendable type, and that's about 2.3 million. And then if you go to the next one on the other side of that, it talks about special revenue funds that are assigned per your budget. You have assigned these amounts out. And so as you approve that budget, you assign these to go to certain places. So it looks like the biggest one you assigned was 415,000. The capital improvement fund used for the justice facility. I am going to really skip now. And I am going to go to the single audit part, which is on page 74 and 75. And if you look at the end of 75, total federal assistance that goes through the county is just over six million. And it kind of breaks it down by how much goes through Health and Human Services, how much goes through the Health Department, how much goes through the Administration Department. So if you go back to that page 75, and you go about the end of that page, you're gonna see the American Rescue Plan 21.027, that was tested as a major program. It says yes, major program. And that was 835,000. And if you go down to the next line where it says Public Safety Partnership and Community Policy Grants, we tested that one, it's at 500,000, and what was that for?
The bulletproof windows in the sheriff.
Bulletproof windows. And, that was also tested in major program. The way the single audit works is, since you're a low risk audit, that means you've never had problems in the past. We have to test 20% of your federal dollars. So if you took 20% of 6 million, we had to test roughly about 1.2, we ended up testing about 1.3. As I said, you had no compliance issues, everything is fine. All these other reports back here say you have met the requirements. So if you go to page 83, it says there are no findings related to the financial statements, and there are no findings related to the federal works. And then if you go to probably 84, in the past, we've never had any findings either. If you ever had findings, boy, it's really tough because you got a whole bunch of more paperwork to do. But Leona does such a great job, and the county department does a great job that we've never had any problems in the past. They've just been really good to work with. As I said, we only ended up doing 9 audit adjustments, of which half were just to bring things back on accrual basis. So really, I think we only really ended up with 5 that affected the modified accrual. Great job.
Thank you.
Yes, Leona, thank you.
Overall, the county's in great shape. They spent a little bit extra money this year, but I think they had budgeted to do that, to do all these projects that you guys said to do. As far as the library, the jail system, and everything else. Well, you guys ought to give her kudos too, I guess.
It has been a real team effort. And I appreciate all the hard work you put into this, checking it.
Yeah, we've been a little bit behind, I'm gonna be honest with you. We've had some issues at our office too, as far as people sick and stuff like that. So we're just fighting fires too. So. But we're getting them done. Any other questions? I went through it quick.
Appreciate it. Thank you, Pete.
The detail on the landfill was very useful. Thank you.
Yeah, the landfill's in good shape. You probably know that because you're required to do that financial assurance. But they're in good shape.
Because we got a big permitting effort going on right now.
I'm glad they raised those. They did that a couple of years ago to get that up.
Well, thank you for the information. Kudos to Leon. Thank you for all that you do. And since we're a low-risk county and we only have 9 AGs instead of 44, do we get a discount?
Unfortunately, we still gotta go through the process. Yeah, we had our, well, you guys got audited, we got audited this year too. Every 3 years, we have to be audited by the peer review process. We did fine. But it's a 3-week process.
Hmm.
And so we're done with that.
Okay, good deal. Thank you very much. No other questions? Anything else need to come before the board?
I have none.
Okay, well, we'll go ahead and adjourn this meeting. Thank you very much.
Thank you.